by the time I reach the Voss estate, I have already stopped thinking in terms of days. I count by houses crossed, by how many kitchen drawers I have opened, by how many times I have had to freeze in a doorway and wait for something outside to pass without turning its head toward me. The suburb behind me is done. It still has roofs, lawns, swing sets, mailboxes standing straight at the curb, but none of that matters now. The people who stayed too long are in the yards or behind the doors or drifting down the center of the street where the sun has baked, spilled fuel into a dark film on the asphalt. I spent the morning in a split level near the elementary school trying to pry canned peaches out of a pantry cabinet that had swollen shut from burst plumbing, and I only got half the shelf cleaned out before I heard glass break downstairs and understood that house was no longer mine for even 10 more seconds. I leave through the second-floor bathroom window, drop onto the garage roof, then onto a trash bin that folds under my weight and throws me onto one knee in a flower bed. I stay there for a second, not because I want to, because I need to listen. Something moves inside the house I just left. Then another sound follows it, a wet shoe scrape over tile, then a short hit against a wall. I crawl behind a hedge, move along the side yard, and cut through the next property with a grocery sack of food tucked under my jacket and a screwdriver in my hand because it is the only thing I can reach fast. I have a hammer in my pack, a pry bar tied to the side, and a cheap folding knife in my pocket. But the screwdriver is what I am holding because it does not snag and I can jab with it if something gets too close in a hallway. That is what my life is now, choosing tools based on hallways. The rumor about the bunker is 3 days old, maybe 4. I got it from a man called Rafe who had been sleeping in a boat shed behind a drained country club pond. He had one eye filmed over, a split thumbnail, and a habit of checking the sky every few minutes even when there was nothing in it. He told me a billionaire named Julian Voss built a private underground refuge beneath his estate 2 towns over. Not a storm cellar. Not one of those wine cave projects rich people bragged about in magazines. An actual refuge with air systems, medical rooms, fuel storage, and enough room for a staff. Rafe said a concrete crew from outside the state had worked nights for nearly a year and signed papers so thick it looked like mortgage closings. He said Voss disappeared before the county started calling the outbreak an emergency. Not after, before. That part stayed with me. Plenty of rich men ran early. Very few did it before the police on television started telling people to remain calm. I did not believe Rafe because he sounded reliable. I believed him because he wanted batteries instead of food, and because when I offered him canned soup for more details, he did not get greedy. He took 2 AA packs, pointed west, and told me to look for the highest wall in the Old Horse District. He said the estate had black stone gates, imported trees, and a private road that curved so delivery drivers could not see the house from the county lane. Then he said something else while rolling one battery across his knuckles. He said, "If you find it, don't expect order." Men who build places like that don't plan for panic. They plan for control. When control breaks, that's when the real mess starts. Then he tucked the batteries into his coat and shut the boat shed door while I was still standing there. I keep that in my head while I cut through the last blocks of the suburb because there is not much else worth keeping. The stores are stripped in waves. First wave took packaged food, flashlights, painkillers, gas cans. Second wave took pet food, charcoal, fencing, bleach, baby wipes, socks, every extension cord that could be rolled up in a hurry. Third wave broke things from frustration or stupidity. I passed a pharmacy yesterday with every computer monitor smashed and every shelf dumped, even though half the bottles were still on the floor untouched. People had fought in there and left blood smears on the freezer doors of the beverage coolers, and by evening the ones drawn by the smell had started gathering at the entrance. I do not go into stores now unless I can see a clean back exit from the front. Houses are better. Houses have patterns. Houses have bathrooms where a person can wash. Kitchens where a person can fill a bag. Attics where a person can hide when a pickup truck full of shouting men rolls down the street looking for what is left. The roads widen as I get closer to the horse district, and the houses pull farther apart. Brick mail pillars replace curbside boxes. Trees line the drives. Some homes have private ponds. Gate codes, copper roofs, even abandoned. The whole area has a different feel from the suburb behind me. Less clutter. More room between bad choices. A lot of the gates stand open because whoever fled had no reason to lock them, or no time. One place has 3 cars stacked into the fountain circle and dried foam on the driveway, where someone tried to put out a fire that reached the garage and died there. Another place has luggage still sitting on the porch, under a security camera that points at nothing because the front wall above it is burned black. I move fast, but not blind. I keep to the tree line when I can. When I cross open ground, I do it in short lines from cover to cover, checking windows before I step out. It slows me down, but haste is what gets a person taken now. Noise is second, hunger is third. I see the Voss wall before I see the house. It runs longer than a normal estate boundary, poured concrete faced with dark stone, close to 12 feet high where the road curves. The gate is worse than Rafe described. 2 black steel leaves, decorative at a distance, but built around thick internal bars and hydraulic arms that could still work if the backup power stayed alive. One side is partly open, maybe 3 feet, enough for a person to squeeze through sideways if he does not mind leaving fabric behind on the hinge teeth. There is dried blood on the inside post and 1 loafer on the gravel just past the threshold. Not a work shoe, not a sneaker. A brown leather loafer with a gold bit on top. The kind of thing a man buys when money has made him forget how weather works. The loafer points toward the gate, not away from it. I stand outside in the ditch for a full minute watching the driveway. No movement, no voices, no engine noise. Just a sprinkler head clicking somewhere far inside the grounds without water coming out of it. I do not go through the main gate. That is the kind of mistake that starts with confidence and ends with something seeing me before I see it. Instead, I follow the wall west until the road bends away and the property backs against a strip of unmanaged woods. Here, the wall drops to 8 feet where the ground rises. Ivy has rooted into the mortar joints in a few places. I use the pry bar to pull myself onto a drainage box, then onto the top of the wall, scraping my forearm on stone and nearly losing my pack to the other side when one strap catches. I lie flat for a second and look down. The grounds beyond are bigger than I expected. Not just a lawn and a mansion. There is a guest house, a detached garage block, a greenhouse with 1 cracked panel, a pool house, and farther up, the main residence set on a low rise with pale stone frontage and massive windows that reflect the afternoon glare so hard I cannot read the interior. The lawn has gone uneven. The edges nearest the house are burned in strips where the automatic irrigation failed. 2 deer lie near the ornamental pond in the lower garden, already opened by scavengers. The whole place has that stopped feeling. Expensive systems paused mid-task and left there until nature and bad decisions could take over. I drop into the shrub line inside the wall and wait. That is the rule I have built for myself after too many close calls. Never arrive anywhere and assume the first silence means safety. Give the place a minute to react. Sometimes a door opens after the first footstep. Sometimes a dog starts barking from a shed. Sometimes a person hiding in the same place decides he has heard enough and makes his move. Nothing happens here, but I notice something after the first 30 seconds. A faint mechanical hum under the insects. Not from the main house. Lower, deeper. It comes and goes with a steady cycle. Fan motors, maybe. Pumps. Something on this property still has power beyond a few backup lights. That alone is enough to keep me from turning around. I work my way past the greenhouse first, because glass tells stories fast. 2 side panels are broken inward. There are muddy footprints on the concrete strip outside. Some old, some newer, and a bag of potting soil ripped open just inside the door, where someone dumped half of it across the floor while reaching for something behind it. A man or woman came through here in a hurry. I crouch beside the frame and look in. Seed trays, a potting bench, dead basil in ceramic planters, a steel door at the far end with a keypad beside it. That does not belong in a greenhouse. The keypad is dark, but the door is newer than the rest of the structure, and the threshold plate has fresh scuffing on it. Not construction fresh. Use fresh. I try the handle. Locked. I wipe the panel with my sleeve and press a few numbers at random. Nothing. I kneel and look closer at the seams. The lower edge has a hairline dust mark broken near the right corner, meaning the door has opened recently enough to leave a clean arc. There is my first real proof that the rumor is solid. Rich men do not hide coated steel doors behind tomato planters unless there is something underneath worth hiding. I circle the greenhouse and find the service trench that feeds it. Water line, conduit, probably climate control once. It runs under a decorative bridge toward the pool house. Halfway there, I hear movement above me and flatten into the trench before I even think. A figure passes across the bridge. Slow. Unsteady. One arm hanging wrong at the elbow. The clothes were probably once white polo, tan shorts, tennis shoes, grounds staff, maybe a resident. Hard to tell now. The figure stops at the midpoint of the bridge and turns its head toward the lower lawn where nothing is moving. Then it drifts on. I stay in the trench until I cannot hear shoe soles on stone anymore. This is why big properties are dangerous. Too much room for things to wander without pattern. In a normal house, you clear room by room. In a place like this, the outside is another interior, just larger and full of blind spots. The pool house is unlocked. Inside, I find towels still folded in a cabinet, an overturned stool, a wall fridge with sour air rolling out when I crack it, and another steel door hidden behind a paneled section near the pump room. This door has no keypad. It uses a card reader and a mechanical key. There is a green light above the reader. That stops me colder than anything else I have seen. Green means power, and not just emergency bleed. Active system power. I test the knob. Locked. I look around the floor and see drag marks in the dust near a bench where a work bag sits open with pliers, a flashlight, 2 empty water bottles, and an employee badge clipped to the side pocket. The photo is half scratched, but the name under it is readable enough. Caleb Nunez. Facilities. If a bunker exists under this estate, Caleb probably knew half the service routes. I check the bag and find no keycard. But I do find a ring with 6 keys, all labeled in tiny stamped tags. Pump mech, chem store, main generator, tunnel north, sump, freight override. I stare at that ring for a second longer than necessary, because luck like that almost always comes with a price. The key-marked freight override fits a lock cylinder hidden under the card reader faceplate. I have to pry the plate out with my screwdriver and turn the key hard enough to worry about snapping it. But the mechanism finally gives with a deep click that runs somewhere below my feet. The steel door opens inward onto a concrete stairwell that drops fast and cold into the ground. The air rising out of it is clean. Not fresh outdoor clean, filtered clean, dry and processed. The smell of bleach, machine oil, and that expensive neutral scent hotels pump through lobbies. I shut the pool house door behind me, not because I think it will stop anything, because I do not want daylight advertising my position down the stairs. Then I start descending with the flashlight in my left hand and the screwdriver still in my right, because I have not yet decided where the line is between shelter and trap. The stairwell turns twice and ends at a landing with another door. This one open 3 inches. Light spills through the gap. Real electric light. Not daylight. Not flashlight bounce. I move to the side of the frame and listen. Fans, distant hum. One sharp metallic tick repeating every few seconds. No voices, no footsteps, no television murmur. I ease the door wider with the pry bar and step into a service corridor finished better than most hotel hallways. The walls are paneled in matte gray composite with recessed strip lighting near the floor. The ceiling is smooth, no exposed ducting, and the air is cool enough that the sweat on my back turns clammy under the shirt. To my left, the corridor runs toward a bank of elevators. To my right, it curves past a laundry room with industrial machines, a maintenance cage, and a utility closet standing open where a mop bucket has dried into a crust. There is a dark smear low on the far wall, hand height if a man had braced himself while falling. I close the stair door and stand there with my pack straps cutting into my shoulders, looking at the place I have spent the last 3 days gambling on. It is real. It is bigger than the rumor. It has power. It has air. It has not been emptied. That last part I know within seconds, because the laundry room shelves are stacked with wrapped towels, cleaning tablets, detergent, vacuum-sealed filter masks, and boxes of nitrile gloves. Someone planned for staff, not just for the owner and his family. A normal panic room does not need this much bulk infrastructure. This place was meant to stay occupied. Maybe months, maybe longer. I set my grocery sack on top of a folding cart and take the first full breath I have taken all day. Then I stop myself from getting stupid. Food and lights can make a man careless faster than whiskey. First thing I do is secure the route I used. I go back up to the pool house, drag a metal chaise lounge across the hidden door panel, stack 2 bins of chlorine tabs against it, and leave the pool house exterior looking undisturbed. Then I return underground and start checking the nearest rooms one by one. Laundry, empty. Utility closet, empty. Maintenance cage, locked. But I can see shelving through the mesh, filters, spare bulbs, copper fittings, boxed tools. At the corridor end, the elevators are dead, but the display panel still glows with floor numbers. B2, B3, B4, and something marked core. Beside the elevators is a glassed-in control station with monitors mounted across the wall. Most show camera feeds from around the estate. Driveway, motor court, greenhouse, perimeter gates, generator yard, upper hallway outside what looks like a wine cellar disguised as a library. 3 screens are black. 1 is full of static. One feed shows the lower orchard where nothing moves except 2 crows. The control station door is open. Inside, a coffee mug lies broken on the tile and dried in place. Someone swept most of it into a pile and then stopped halfway through. The chair is pushed back. A desk drawer stands open with pens spilled across the floor. On one monitor, a message box is frozen over the camera view. Access denied. Biometric mismatch. Panic Suite 3. Timestamp from 11 days ago. Another message beneath it. System manual override failed. That gives the whole room a different weight. This was not a clean departure. This was a failure while people were still trying to use the systems. I check the desk and find a laminated estate map folded under a keyboard. Upper house, gardens, outbuildings. Then beneath that, 4 underground levels. Residential, medical and storage, utilities and transit, secure wing. The secure wing is blacked out with only door numbers and a warning note in red, admin access only. I almost laugh when I see the map. Not from humor, from the shock of having a problem so large it could take days just to understand it. Most of my life since the outbreak has been measured in immediate decisions. Can I enter that house? Can I carry that water? Can I get past that intersection before dusk? Here, the decision tree explodes. I am standing in a place with enough complexity to kill me by confusion alone. If I push into the wrong wing without knowing the lock logic, I could get trapped between security doors. If I shut down a fan bank by mistake, I could lose filtered air and not know it until the whole place starts smelling wrong. If I turn on lights in the wrong section, I advertise power to anyone outside who still has eyes and patience. I sit in the operator chair, spread the map on the desk, and force myself to slow down enough to think in order. Water first, air second, power third, exits fourth, then food, then sleeping place, then sanitation, then threats. The map shows a treatment room on B3 near the utility spine. I take the service stairs instead of the elevators and find a mechanical corridor lined with insulated pipes. 2 gray tanks the size of vans, and a water room where gauges are still live and a filtration skid hums behind a locked grate. The labels are plain enough that even with only handyman-level experience, I can read the basics. Potable reserve, gray recovery, pressure loop, UV treatment. Someone designed this with redundancy. I fill a stainless bottle from a sink in the adjacent service room and let the water run for a full minute before I taste it. Clean, cold, no rust. That almost gets me. Not emotionally in any dramatic way, just practically. My standards have dropped so low over the last week that clean, cold water from a tap feels suspicious. I fill 2 more bottles and tuck one at the small of my back inside the pack where it will not clank. Then I keep moving before relief can turn into a dumb decision. Food is on the same level, and it is enough to explain why a man would kill for this place. Dry storage racks loaded with sealed bins, freeze-dried meals, canned vegetables, rice in mylar, beans, shelf-stable milk, energy bars, cases of bottled water even though the bunker has its own treatment system, a walk-in cooler still running with hard cheese, vacuum-packed meat, butter, cartons of eggs that might or might not still be good, a freezer room with labeled trays and boxed inventory. I do not celebrate. I check for spoilage, take inventory of what is actually usable, and note the amount of space still left on the shelves. A lot is gone. Not enough for a full orderly evacuation. enough for a rushed pull by several people who expected to come back or thought they were leaving only part of the stores behind. There is also a staff galley with 6 stools at a counter, a commercial range, and a soup pot left crusted in the sink. Someone ate here during the crisis. Someone washed half the dishes and gave up. The first body I find is not in a hallway or slumped against a locked door. It is in the infirmary, sitting upright in a visitor chair with one shoe off and an IV line still taped to the arm. A woman in navy scrubs, maybe late 40s, head tipped back, skin dry and drawn so tight it looks polished under the fluorescent lights. She has been dead long enough that there is no question about that. One hand rests over the stomach. The other hangs beside the chair with 2 fingers touching the floor. No signs of violence, no blood, no turned-over equipment. A typed label on the chair arm reads Marta Hughes, RN. There is a pill cup on the tray beside her, empty, and a folded blanket over her knees. She either sat down here sick and never got up, or someone placed her here after she was already too weak to argue. I back out slowly and close the infirmary door. There's nothing useful in standing over her longer. But her presence changes everything again. Staff stayed below for some part of the disaster, and at least one died inside without anyone carrying her out. I claim the operator station for the first night because it gives me cameras, hard walls, and a clean sight line to the elevators and stair. I bring a blanket from the linen room, a boxed meal, 2 bottles of water, and a fire extinguisher that I prop beside the desk because it is better than empty hands if someone forces a door. Before dark, I go up once more to the estate grounds and check the nearest outbuildings for loose threats. I see one infected near the orchard fence, and another wandering inside the detached garage with its shoulder scraping the side of a black SUV. I avoid both. There is no prize for killing what does not yet know where I am. When I return underground, I lock the service door behind me with Caleb's override key and wedge a floor squeegee through the handle just in case the latch fails. Then I sit in the operator chair while the bunker hums around me and the camera screens change color with the evening light above ground. I do not sleep much. Every system noise feels personal until I learn it. The metallic tick I heard earlier turns out to be a relay in the monitor rack cycling every 11 seconds. The ventilation tone deepens when one of the lower fan banks switches load. Around midnight, a door alarm chirps once somewhere on B4 and stops before I can figure out which sector triggered it. I spend 10 minutes staring at the blacked-out secure wing line on the map. Then I tell myself a simple thing out loud, because sometimes hearing words in a room steadies the order of them. Not tonight. I say it quietly and mean it. The secure wing can wait until I know the rest. Men die in basements because curiosity gives itself heroic names. Morning starts with work, real work, the kind that keeps panic from filling empty time. I shave with a disposable razor from the medical cabinet because a clean face seals better under masks and because stubble carries smells from the outside. I wash my clothes in the service machine while wearing a hotel robe from the residential level because every set of fabric I own now matters. I inventory batteries. I test the radios in the security drawer. 2 dead, 1 good on receive but useless for broadcast from underground. I find a locker room with boxed uniforms for house staff, black slacks, white shirts, gray coveralls, and take a set of coveralls in my size because pockets are survival. The residential level is absurd in a way that almost annoys me. Lounge with leather seating, wood-paneled walls, soft, indirect lighting, a kitchen bigger than the apartment I had before the world came apart. A dining room with place settings for 12, private suites with folded robes and slippers waiting in closets. One suite belongs to Julian Voss. His initials are stamped into the shower glass. His office beside it is locked with a biometric plate and a mechanical backup cylinder that none of Caleb's keys open. I do not touch the office yet. Instead, I focus on the doors that matter. Exit routes. I find 3. The pool house stair I used. A freight elevator connecting the garage block to B3, currently disabled, and a transit tunnel running north from B4 toward a maintenance shed beyond the property wall. The tunnel door is open on the bunker side. 50 yards in, the ceiling has partially collapsed where a utility trench above must have given way. Daylight leaks through dirt and root gaps. A utility cart sits crushed under concrete chunks. Near it, human remains in expensive outdoor clothes lie wedged between the cart and the wall. One wrist still wears a watch with a face the size of a biscuit and a leather strap gone stiff with grime. There is no ID card, but there does not need to be. The watch, the clothes, the fact that the body is in the escape tunnel instead of a staff corridor, all of it points the same way. Julian Voss did not vanish neatly. He tried to leave through a route few people knew about, and the tunnel failed while he was using it, maybe from rushed blasting. Maybe from weak drainage, maybe from bad luck after years of thinking money had canceled bad luck. Either way, the richest man on the property died in a dirt tube alone. I take the watch because leaving it on that wrist would be pointless, but it buys me no thrill. I sit on the intact wall farther down the tunnel and stare at the collapse while dust motes float through the flashlight beam. That is the owner's ending. Not a helicopter lift, not a convoy, not a distant safe zone. He built layers of stone, steel, filtered air, biometric locks, panic suites, and a private escape line. And when the moment came, the only thing between him and open ground dropped on him in the dark. There is a lesson in it, but it is not the kind people usually say. It is not that money cannot save a man. Money built this entire place, and it is saving me right now. The lesson is that a man can pour millions into preparation and still fail because he expected his systems to obey him exactly when he was no longer capable of thinking clearly. That afternoon, I opened the first surveillance archive. The control room system has stored local footage for months, though parts are corrupted. I watched the last clean days in pieces while eating crackers from the galley. Delivery vans, landscapers, a private doctor arriving twice in 1 week, Julian Voss moving through the upper hall in a blue sweater, phone to ear, pointing at staff while talking hard enough for the cameras to catch the tension in his mouth even without sound. Then the timing jumps. More people begin using the service doors. A woman around 30 with dark hair and a child on her hip. Maybe a house manager or relative. Caleb from the badge. Marta from the infirmary, alive then, carrying medical cases, men with duffel bags, guards, contractors, hard to tell. One clip freezes my attention. It shows the lower residential corridor on the first day the group clearly settles underground. The dark-haired woman is arguing with Voss outside a door marked Panic Suite 3. She is pointing upward, toward the house or the surface. He keeps shaking his head and checking his phone. Then a man in a suit tries the door scanner and gets denied. Another woman, older, barefoot, is sitting against the wall holding a towel to her neck. Whatever went wrong here? It started before the people below had a shared plan. I do not sit and watch film for hours because that would be another way of hiding from real work. I take what I need and move. By late afternoon, I have organized food into useful categories: immediate, long shelf, medical diet, water-heavy waste. I carry 5 cases of bottled water to the operator room so I can abandon the taproute if something shifts underground. I clear 1 bedroom on the residential level and move in there because the operator chair will eventually break my back. I choose a room near the stair core with only 1 door and no decorative clutter to trip over in low light. I bring in a lamp, bedding, a trash can lined with bags, and a chair wedged under the knob while I sleep. Then I start the part I have been delaying. I make a plan for the secure wing. The map labels B4 as utilities and transit, but most of the east side of that level is sealed behind 3 admin doors marked Secure Wing. Camera coverage inside is dead. Motion indicators on the control board flicker yellow every few hours in zone E2, then clear. That could be a fault. It could also be air movement, rodent activity, or something worse. The fact that Voss's final error messages mention Panic Suite 3 makes me think someone or something is still behind one of those doors. If there is a trapped infected in a sealed luxury room. I want to know that before a power fluctuation or failing lock lets it into a corridor I use every day. So I suit up in the least foolish way available. Coveralls zipped, work gloves, goggles from the maintenance cage, mask, pry bar, flashlight, kitchen knife duct taped to a broom handle because the screwdriver is not enough for distance, and I do not yet trust the firearms cabinet I found on B3 to have anything useful and safe inside. Improvised is ugly, but distance matters. Door 1 opens with Caleb's admin key from a secondary ring I missed the first day. Door 2 opens after a keypad challenge that the control station resets when I authorize from upstairs. Door 3 sticks halfway and then clears with a long exhale of stale air. The secure wing beyond is not what I expected. I pictured prison cells for the rich. It is worse because it is cleaner than that. 3 private suites with reinforced doors, separate bathrooms, independent air returns, thick observation glass that can opacify with a wall switch, plus a decontamination room, a compact medical lab, and a small armory with biometric locks now dark. Panic Suite 1 stands open and empty except for spilled toiletries and a child's stuffed rabbit on the bed. Panic Suite 2 is also open. Linens stripped, floor littered with water bottles, 1 broken heel near the shower. Panic Suite 3 is closed, and the dried smear near the reader tells me somebody tried to open it with bloody hands. I do not touch the handle first. I check the observation glass. Opaque. The control panel beside it is dead. I pop the access cover and find a mechanical release cable inside. When I pull it, the glass clears halfway and shows the suite interior. A man in a suit jacket lies on the bathroom threshold, 1 leg bent under him, forehead to tile. No movement. The room beyond looks torn apart. Mattress half off the bed. Lamp smashed. Mini fridge open. There is writing on the mirror in streaked lipstick or marker. Open the door under that. Smaller. He is turning. I stand there long enough to feel the time I am wasting. Then I angle the flashlight toward the far corner and see where the second body used to be. Blood. Dried to dark brown. Drag marks toward the closet. Closet door shut. I could walk away. That would be reasonable. Seal the door. Mark the suite dangerous. Never use this wing again. But the whole bunker depends on knowing where problems are, not politely ignoring them. So I crack the door 6 inches and wait. Nothing. I open it wider with the broom spear ready. Still nothing. The suit man on the floor is fully dead. Long dead. The smell has mostly dried out into old rot trapped by filtered air. I edge toward the closet, set the flashlight beam low so I can see feet first, and pull the door with the pry bar. What comes out is fast enough to prove how dangerous a locked room can stay long after the first panic ends. A younger man, shirtless, skin collapsed tight over the ribs, one eye gone cloudy, launches from the dark with both arms high and jaw working. The room is small enough that I cannot swing wide. I jam the broom shaft across his chest, drive him backward into the closet frame, and push until the taped knife end hits something solid. He thrashes against the shaft, claws at the handle, slides sideways, comes again. I shove harder, pin him to the wall, then use the pry bar one-handed to finish it in close because if I lose the shaft, he is on me. Afterward, I sit on the hallway floor outside Panic Suite 3 and wipe my goggles with a towel from the decon room because the inside has fogged with exertion and old dust. That is the first close underground fight. Too close, too contained, too dependent on luck holding for one more second. I strip the bedding from the other suites and use it to wrap both bodies before moving them to a storage freezer that has already failed and will stay shut until I decide on a proper burial method. There are no easy, respectful options left in the world above. Below ground, there are even fewer. I settle for contained, recorded, and not abandoned in the hall. Then I clean the suite with bleach solution, open the manual return dampers, and make myself document what I found in a maintenance notebook. Suit male dead. Unnamed. Younger infected male inside closet. Mirror message indicates confinement during conversion. Door remained locked. Threat neutralized. It feels cold to write it like that. But cold notes keep facts from getting softened by imagination later. The armory in the secure wing finally opens once the system recognizes admin override from the control board. Inside are 4 locked rifle racks, 2 empty, 2 holding weapons I do not know well enough to trust immediately, plus 3 pistols in foam cases, hearing protection, boxed ammunition, cleaning kits, and 2 12-gauge shotguns. I am not a gunman. Before the outbreak, I worked odd jobs, delivery, warehouse, estate maintenance one summer for a landscaping company that serviced rich neighborhoods but never let us inside the houses. My experience with firearms is limited to one hunting trip at 17 and a range lane rented by a friend on his birthday. That does not stop me from taking one shotgun and learning exactly how it works, using the manual in the case. Read. Check chamber. Read again. Practice loading and unloading with dummy rounds I find in a training pouch. Do it until the motions stop fighting each other. Then lock the real shells separate until I need them. A gun you barely understand is a loud coin flip. I have survived too long on careful habits to replace them with noise and ego. On the 4th day, the estate reminds me that no place stays isolated just because a man wants it to. Around noon, camera 2 at the west wall catches movement in the tree line. Not one shape. 3. 2 adults and a boy, maybe 12 or 13, all moving low and stopping often. They do not look like raiders. They look hungry. The older man has a limp and keeps touching his side. The woman carries a long-handled garden tool across her back and a backpack swollen so full it has split at one seam. The boy keeps turning around to watch their trail. I track them from screen to screen as they work along the outer wall, and find the drainage cut near the woods where I climbed in. For a few seconds, I think they are just passing. Then the boy points toward the greenhouse roof. He has seen the broken panels. Good eyes. Bad for me. I go up to the pool house stair with the shotgun loaded but kept low. Not because I intend to threaten first, because I cannot let 3 strangers reach the hidden service doors and start experimenting on their own. I leave the concealed panel shut and move through the ornamental shrubs until I can see them from 20 yards away. The woman spots me first. She raises one hand, palm out, and says, "We don't want trouble." Her voice is cracked from dehydration or dust or both. The boy freezes. The older man lowers himself onto the edge of a stone planter without waiting for permission. There is no dramatic scene, no standoff language, just tired people who know one more wrong move could end the day. I keep distance and ask where they came from. The woman says from a church shelter off Route 9. Fire drove people out 2 nights ago. She says the man is her father, named Tom, and the boy is Ben, her son. She says she heard this place might have water. I believe that part because desperate lies are usually more ambitious. I do not invite them underground. I do not tell them what is here. That would be madness. But I also do not tell them to leave immediately because Tom's side is soaked through with old blood near the hip, and if I push them back into the road right now, the choice will sit with me for a long time whether I want it or not. So I compromise the only way that seems sane. I bring them to the pool house, keep them in the open room, give them bottled water one at a time so nobody gulps too fast, and inspect Tom's wound from a few feet away while wearing gloves and mask. It is not a bite. It is a long cut. Probably sheet metal or broken fence. Angry and dirty, but not fresh. He needs cleaning, antibiotics if any remain, and rest. None of that means I should trust him. It just means he is not what I feared at first glance. Ben says very little. He watches the door. The woman, her name is Kara, speaks directly and does not waste words. That helps. I set rules fast because soft rules become arguments. Nobody moves past the marked tile line near the pump room. Nobody touches the steel panel. Weapons stay visible. If I say stop, stop means stop. If I think anyone is hiding a bite, coughing blood, or withholding something that can get us all killed, the conversation ends, and so does their chance of shelter. Kara nods before I finish. Tom mutters that he is too old to play games. Ben just holds his bottle with both hands and stares at the folded pool cover outside the window. I leave them long enough to bring a first aid kit from below and a pot of soup warmed in the staff galley, because hot food is not a small thing when a person has been living on granola crumbs and lukewarm tap water. While I am gone, I lock the hidden panel and watch them on the pool house camera feed. Kara checks the corners. Ben peeks under the sink cabinets. Tom closes his eyes for maybe 30 seconds and then opens them again because pain will not let him drift. They are exactly what they look like. Not harmless. Nobody is harmless anymore. But not hunters on a soft approach either. Tom's wound cleans badly. Dirt packed deep. Cloth fibers inside. He clamps his jaw while I flush it and only curses once when I have to probe near the lower edge. I give him leftover oral antibiotics from the infirmary because I cannot think of a stronger use for them right now. Kara notices the quality of the supplies in the kit. The compression wrap, the suture pack, the unopened sterile bottles, and her eyes cut to the hidden panel even though she says nothing. She knows there is more here than a pool house. Smart woman. That means I either send them away after treating the wound, or I make a harder choice. I go upstairs to the greenhouse camera and back to the monitor desk and think through what happens if I refuse them. 3 people weak from travel leave this property carrying proof that someone helped them. If they survive, they may talk. If they fail nearby, scavengers may search the estate anyway. If I keep them, I multiply every risk inside the bunker but gain extra eyes, extra hands, and maybe a moral line I do not want to cross alone. Julian Voss built the place to exclude. I did not build it. That matters, but only if I act like it matters. I bring them below that evening, not to the residential level, to a quarantine room beside the infirmary with 2 cots, a sink, and a glass partition. I explain the terms while the bunker lights hum over us. 24 hours separate, clothes bagged and washed, full check for bites, symptoms, fever, confusion. 1 room at a time, no wandering, no questions about codes or maps. Kara agrees before Tom can complain. Ben strips without protest because hunger and exhaustion have squeezed the usual pride out of him. I search their packs while they shower in the decon stall. 2 cans of beans, a church pamphlet, 1 spare shirt, duct tape, a photo of a woman in a grocery apron with Ben on her shoulders from before all this. No hidden knife beyond the folding one Kara handed over herself. I give them staff clothes from storage and lock their old things in a cabinet until I can launder them properly. The first night with other living people below ground changes the sound of the bunker. Doors open at different intervals. A cough behind glass means there is another center of attention in the building besides me. The place stops feeling purely stolen and starts feeling occupied. That is good and bad, both. Good because people maintain routine better when someone else can see them slipping. Bad because every system has to support more than one body now. More water, more waste, more chances for a mistake. I sleep badly anyway because I keep waiting for one of them to deteriorate, to show me I misjudged. Morning comes with no crisis. Tom's fever is low and explainable by the wound. Ben eats 2 boiled eggs and falls asleep sitting up. Kara uses her quarantine time to clean the sink without being asked. That counts for something. Over the next 3 days, I expand access in layers. First infirmary and staff galley, then laundry. Then 1 residential bedroom for Kara and Ben, another for Tom close to the stairs. No secure wing, no control passwords, no office. I show Kara how the water room works at a basic level because redundancy in knowledge is no longer optional. Turns out she spent 6 years managing inventory for a dental clinic before the outbreak and learned systems fast. Tom used to repair restaurant refrigeration and can diagnose half the utility noises that had been bothering me just by standing in the corridor and listening for a minute. Ben has sharp eyes and too much restless energy to keep boxed in, so I put him on visible tasks, shelf counts, camera log times, trash tie-outs. It keeps him from touching what he should not. We do not become a family. I hate when people in stories do that in 3 scenes. What we become is useful to one another, then gradually less stiff about it. Kara eventually asks the question I knew was coming. Why is the office still locked if the owner is dead? I tell her because locked rooms are not automatically rewards. She says that is not an answer. I tell her it is the only one she gets right now. She does not push theatrically. She just nods once and starts cutting potatoes for soup. Later that night, after Tom is asleep and Ben is cleaning a flashlight lens with a corner of his shirt, Kara says through the half-open galley pass window, I'm not asking because I want his watches or his whiskey. I'm asking because men who build places like this keep records. Records tell you what runs out first. She is right. Also annoying. Also right. So the next day I decide to open Voss's office because information has become worth more than privacy. The office door needs a different route than brute force. The biometric scanner still has standby power. And the system log in the control room shows one enrolled secondary profile still recognized after admin override. Marta Hughes. Somehow the dead nurse had higher access than several of the living people in the archive footage. I do not love what that implies, but I use it. I take her handprint from a preserved scan pad in the infirmary records and match it through the security maintenance console after 2 tense hours of trial and error that feel more like burglary than engineering. The door opens on the 3rd attempt. Inside, the office is less grand than I expected. No gold nonsense. Dark wood, clean lines, 2 monitors, a wall safe, a bar cabinet, paper files stacked in steel trays. One family photo face down on the desk, as if someone knocked it over and never picked it up. The photo shows Voss, a woman in a cream jacket, and a girl about Ben's age on a sailboat. Happy enough for a camera. Meaningless to me now. The useful material is in the files. Maintenance contracts, supplier lists, medical stock rotation, fuel delivery schedules, architectural plans for the bunker. But there is more. Printed emails, internal memos, notes from a private physician named Dr. Keene warning Voss in cautious language that his daughter's condition required monitoring and that extended sealed residence with stress factors could worsen episodes. Another folder holds emergency staff rosters with annotations in Voss's handwriting. Keep, release, relocate. One line is underlined twice beside Caleb Nunez, knows North Tunnel. There is another note near Marta's name, useful in containment. I feel dirty reading it, because the man is still trying to manage people from the grave through scraps of paper. Then I reach the last folder, labeled Contingency Communications. Inside are transcripts of calls made in the 48 hours before the public emergency notices. Voss had been receiving inside warnings from a financial contact, a private security consultant, and someone in a county office who never signs his name. They tell him hospital admissions are rising fast. Law enforcement is losing control of bite incidents, and travel disruptions are about to widen. He activates the bunker early. He calls in select staff. He excludes others. Then his daughter goes missing from the surface residence for nearly 3 hours during the intake period. When she is finally brought below, she is agitated, scratched, and refusing medical exam. The nurse requests isolation. Voss refuses full isolation because it would alarm the rest. Panic Suite 3 is prepared instead. Then the records stop being orderly and turn frantic. Lock failure, staff dispute, missing access card, Dr. Keene unaccounted for. North Tunnel opened without authorization. It fits the footage. The bunker did not fail because the design was bad. It failed because the owner compromised his own procedures the first time his own blood was involved. I do not share every detail with Kara and Tom, not because I am hoarding drama, because some information helps and some only spreads poison. I tell them the owner activated early based on warnings, brought selected people underground, and a medical containment breach tore the group apart. I tell them the North Tunnel collapse killed him while he tried to run. Tom says, serves him right. Kara says nothing for a long moment, then asks if the daughter made it out. I tell her I do not know. That part is true. The archive never shows a confirmed body for the girl. Panic Suite 3 held an adult male and the infected younger man. Voss's daughter may have died elsewhere in the bunker, may have escaped upward, may be one of the many people already unrecognizable on roads I will never walk. Not knowing is cleaner than inventing. For 2 weeks, we settle into something close to sustainable. Close, not comfortable. Comfort is what gets schedules lazy. We ration from the freezer first. We rotate tap water with bottled reserves. We establish cleaning days, laundry days. One person always on cameras while another works a physical task. Tom helps me restart the disabled freight lift to the garage block, though we leave it locked on the lower side except for planned supply runs. Ben proves useful on the surface because he can move through the gardens quietly and spot disturbed ground or fresh prints better than any of us. Kara inventories the entire infirmary and creates a real medical ledger on paper. I reinforce the pool house concealment and cut new camouflage screens for the greenhouse from shade cloth. We bury Marta and the others in a grove beyond the lower pond at dusk, when the grounds are quiet. No speeches, just labor with shovels and a simple row of stones, because leaving them in failed freezer compartments would have been another kind of selfishness. Then the first serious human threat arrives. A white contractor van pulls up outside the main gate on a gray afternoon with 3 men in paint-splattered work pants and 1 woman in a red rain jacket riding passenger. From the camera feed alone, they could pass for utility staff. The problem is the second vehicle that rolls up 2 minutes later. A lifted pickup with welded grill bars and a mattress tied in the bed under a blue tarp. The men from the van do not knock. They fan out along the gate line and start checking camera housings with the confidence of people who have done this before. One carries bolt cutters too heavy for random scavenging. Another checks sight lines toward the house before he ever looks for supplies. Organized, predatory, maybe not soldiers, but close enough in intent. Ben whispers, "They know something's here." He is right. Either they followed tracks, or someone from farther out remembered the rumor and sold it cheap. Rumors travel even when power does not. We kill every visible light below ground, except essentials, and shut down the upper house circuits entirely. I keep the bunker systems running, but route non-critical exhaust through the scrubber loop to reduce heat bloom from surface vents. That buys us some concealment. The group outside spends the first hour testing. One man climbs the gate and drops back when he sees the inner motor court too exposed. The woman in the red jacket checks the greenhouse, then the garage block, then the pool house. She is smart enough to notice what matters and impatient enough to force it. When she reaches the pump room, I know the hidden panel will not survive a full search by 4 determined people with tools. Tom suggests we ambush at the pool house choke point. Kara says only if they breach. I agree with her because once gunfire starts inside the outbuilding, the hidden access becomes obvious no matter who wins. Better to stop them earlier. So we use the estate itself. The cameras show 1 infected still drifting near the detached garage, another in the orchard, and maybe 3 more wandering properties nearby beyond the west wall. Noise can move them if the wind favors it. I take the north service hatch to the woods beyond the wall, with Ben spotting from the monitor room and Kara on radio relay. The hatch opens into brush 50 yards outside the property, a route the raiders do not know. I circle wide, reach the abandoned riding stable next door, and set off the old truck alarm there, using a brick through the windshield, because subtlety has left the menu. The sound cuts through the district hard enough to bounce off the estate wall. Then I run the line back through the trees and get inside the hatch before the first answer comes shambling from the neighboring grounds. On camera, the raiders react exactly how I hoped and feared, both. Two move toward the west perimeter to investigate. The woman in red stays near the greenhouse. The pickup driver starts the truck and repositions it closer to the gate in case they need a fast loadout. The infected reach the outer verge first. Not a giant herd. 6, maybe 8, enough to break concentration. One of the raiders kills 2 with a crowbar and should have stopped there. Instead, he keeps shouting at the others, and the sound draws more from the road beyond the horse district. The woman in red abandons the greenhouse and runs for the van. One man gets his sleeve caught on the gate spikes while trying to climb back over. The pickup driver floors it too early, clips a stone post, and stalls for 3 seconds that must feel very long from his seat. We watch from the control room while the whole polished estate frontage turns into the kind of stupid chaos that has become common everywhere else. Tom mutters, "Good," Kara says. "Wait." She sees what I miss at first. A second group is arriving on foot from the south tree line, drawn by the same noise. And unlike the first group, these are not raiders. They are just people seeking any gap to survive through. If the fighting at the gate continues, the entire property gets exposed. We cannot sit frozen underground and pretend the outcome will sort itself. So we move. Tom stays on cameras and radio because his side still aches when he twists. Kara and I take the freight lift to the garage block with shotguns and one pry bar between us. Ben stays in the control room because I am not putting a boy into open crossfire if I can help it. When we reach the garage, the noises outside have spread into the motor court. A raider is pounding on the kitchen glass with the butt of a pistol while glancing over his shoulder every second. Another is limping through the fountain circle with blood on one pant leg. The woman in red has the pool house door open. That decides it. Kara and I move before debate can become delay. She breaks left through the service hedge and yells to draw the limping man. I go straight for the woman in red and hit her from the side with enough force to send both of us into the towel cabinet. Her pistol skids under a bench. She claws for my face. I jam an elbow into her shoulder, and by the time she twists free, Kara has the shotgun trained on the doorway and says one word that carries more weight than shouting. Down. The woman goes still because she is smart enough to read a muzzle at 10 feet. The next 30 seconds are ugly but simple. The limping man bolts toward the van. Kara does not fire because the distance is bad, and the risk beyond him is worse. The man at the kitchen glass hears the pool house commotion, turns, sees he has lost the rhythm, and jumps the low wall toward the side drive. Good choice on his part. The driver finally gets the pickup moving and punches through the half-open gate while 2 infected slap uselessly at the bed rails. The woman in red keeps one knee on the tile and one hand on the cabinet door where the pistol disappeared. I tell her to move both hands to her head. She does. I tell her if her people come back, the pool house becomes the first place I make lethal. She believes me because the moment does not need decoration. Then I march her out the side and send her through the service hedge toward the south wall without her weapon. She leaves. Fast. After that, the estate is no secret anymore. Anyone who watched from a distance saw movement, conflict, maybe people using the grounds with purpose. That means our old version of survival is finished. No more pretending the bunker can remain a one-man discovery or even a hidden 4-person refuge indefinitely. We spend the next 3 days adapting to the new reality. Gates get chained from inside. Sight lines are cut through the lower shrubs. We establish fallback rooms and code words on the radios. Tom rigs a freezer alarm bell to the pool house door in case electronics fail. Kara insists on one thing I do not want, but know is correct. We need a policy for outsiders. Not case-by-case panic. Actual policy. Screening. Limits. Work exchange. Duration. Rejection rules. She says if we avoid making rules, fear will make them for us at the wrong time. Again, annoying. Again, right. So we sit at the long dining table deep underground and write what amounts to the first honest charter that Bunker has ever had. No one enters below without screening for bites, blood exposure, fever, confusion, or concealed weapons. No one gets access to secure wing, control codes, or firearms storage without group agreement. Food is rationed by need and labor, not by force or seniority. Medical truth is mandatory. If someone hides symptoms, that person is out if removal is possible and confined if it is not. Children stay with guardians if guardians are stable. Every adult works if able. The bunker is not open to endless intake, because that would kill everyone. But it is not private property either. We argue over wording more than over the ideas. Tom wants harsher refusal language. Kara wants clearer medical quarantine steps. I want final say over mechanical areas because I know them best. Ben suggests a dumb line about no stealing. Then he shrugs and says, maybe it is not dumb after all, because people still steal even when everything is collapsing. We keep the line. Weeks pass. The world above keeps shrinking and hardening while ours gets more deliberate. We run surface trips at dawn only. We strip useful materials from neighboring estates in widening circles, fencing, fuel stabilizer, garden tools, batteries, seed stock, solar inverters from one house whose roof array somehow survived. Kara starts a hydroponic corner in the old greenhouse using recovered trays and bunker nutrient concentrate that had been sitting unopened in the storage cage. Ben learns to clean camera lenses and read approach patterns from tracks in the mud near the service woods. Tom gets his strength back enough to take over generator checks entirely, and once he has a job nobody else can do, he becomes less bitter by half. We lose power once during a storm when a transfer switch sticks. The bunker goes dark for 17 seconds, just long enough for everyone's imagination to show its teeth, and then the backup bank catches. After that, we sleep with flashlights clipped to the bed frame and no longer joke about maintenance delays. Not everyone who finds the estate becomes a resident. Most do not. A pair of brothers show up with one deep bite hidden under a bandage. We give them water, a wrapped food packet, and directions to a county maintenance yard with above-ground shelter options, but do not bring them below. A woman alone arrives carrying a dog crate with no dog inside and a clean kitchen knife in her belt. She has no symptoms, no lies I can detect, and a practical manner that reminds me of Kara. We keep her for observation 3 days, then trade her a bicycle and supplies when she decides she would rather keep moving than live underground. She thanks us without warmth and pedals east. That is fine. Warmth is not currency anymore. Clarity is. A preacher with 3 followers comes demanding sanctuary by right of shared humanity. Tom closes the intercom on him after the preacher lies about hearing no generators while staring directly at the active vent stack. He camps outside the west wall for a night and leaves when nothing opens for him. Winter edges in slowly. The estate grass yellows. The ornamental pond skins over one morning at the shaded end. That changes our math again because cold slows rot, changes movement patterns, and makes surface scavenging both safer and more punishing. It also seals our decision about the future. We are not waiting rescue out anymore. Rescue would have shown by now in some organized form, and what passes for authority on the occasional radio burst sounds smaller every week. Counties, corridors, temporary zones, no broad promises, so we stop treating the bunker as a temporary hideout and start treating it as infrastructure. Long-term seed storage, tool redundancy, water filter rebuild parts, written maintenance manuals copied by hand in case the digital records fail. Ben hates that part until I explain that written pages still work when screens die. Then he starts adding his own drawings in the margins, vent routes, tool locations, camera blind spots we have corrected. Good drawings too. I go back through the archive one last time in the dead of January, not because I enjoy haunting other people's collapse, because unfinished facts are another kind of leak. In a corrupted overnight file from the second crisis day, I finally find a glimpse of Voss's daughter. She is not dead on camera. She is in a blanket, hair matted to one side, face pale, standing in the north tunnel mouth while Marta and Caleb argue with Julian Voss in the corridor outside. The girl is saying something I cannot hear. Then she turns and walks into the tunnel under her own power. That is the last clear frame before the file tears apart. I sit with that for a long time. He did not just compromise the bunker because of blood loyalty. He lost control because he could not force the one person he cared about most to follow the rules he built for everyone else. In the end, the rich man's fortress failed for reasons that would fit in any house in any town. Fear, denial, family, delay. I tell Kara that much, not the rest. She nods and says, "That tracks." Then she asks if knowing helps. I think about it and say yes, because mystery grows teeth when you leave it alone. Facts usually make the shape uglier but smaller. She says that is probably true, and hands me a tray of cleaned tools to sort. That is our version of comfort. Not speeches. Shared work with room for one honest sentence. By the time the first full year turns, the estate above looks nearly abandoned from the road. That is on purpose. We let certain windows stay broken. We never clear all the fallen branches from the drive. The main house remains dark except for brief controlled use. The real life of the place is below and behind. Inside the bunker, the opposite is true. Rooms that once existed only for one man's reassurance now have routine worn into them. The galley smells of bread some mornings because Kara figured out how to make a decent loaf from stored flour and powdered eggs. Tom rebuilt a dented chest freezer into a parts locker. Ben is taller, sharper, and capable of stripping and cleaning a water valve assembly without being told twice where the seals go. I am no longer pretending I merely found shelter. I run part of it. So do the others. Ownership stopped being the right word months ago. Stewardship fits better, even if it sounds too noble for the amount of plumbing involved. Sometimes I still walk the north tunnel to the collapse point and stand a few yards short of the place where Julian Voss died. Not to admire or gloat, to remember scale. Above me there are acres of stone walls, dead lawns, silent luxury rooms. Behind me there is filtered air, stored food, a ledger with names that keep growing and shrinking as people arrive, stay, move on, or fail. Everything in this place came from a man who thought survival could be privatized down to the last fingerprint. He was not wrong about preparation. He was wrong about what preparation was for. A bunker that exists only to keep others out becomes a tomb the first time its rules need mercy. A bunker that lets everyone in becomes a famine with carpeting. The line between those two failures is narrow, ugly, and full of arguments, but it exists. We live on that line every day. Tonight I am in the control room again, older in practical ways if not by the calendar. Checking the perimeter feeds while Tom replaces a relay on B3 and Kara teaches Ben how to rotate medical stock by expiration instead of label color. Snow is starting outside, thin at first, then steady enough to blur the lower drive. Camera 6 shows the main gate half buried in white at the base. Camera 11 shows the greenhouse roof glowing dim under moonlight. Everything looks quiet. Quiet is never trustable, but it is useful. I mark the wind direction in the logbook. Note a minor voltage drop on fan bank 2 and set tomorrow's tasks in order. Clear vent covers. Inspect outer hatch seals. Inventory salt. Finish wiring the second motion bell on the pool house door. Real things. Small things. The kind of things that keep a place from becoming another dead rich man's story. When I first came here, I thought I was crawling into a miracle. Then I thought I had crawled into a trap. Both ideas were too simple. This place is what any shelter becomes after the first week's strip-away fantasy. A machine for buying time, and a test of what a person turns into while using that time. I broke in expecting canned food and a clean bed. What I found instead was a record of cowardice, foresight, waste, engineering, grief, and one unfinished decision left sitting in every locked door. Keep it secret and become the kind of man who built it, or open it without discipline and bury everyone together later. There was never a perfect answer. There still is not. What there is this. Below ground, in a room built for command and vanity, the lights are steady, the water is clean, the cameras work. 4 cups sit on the counter by the monitor wall because nobody bothers putting them away until the end of the shift. Somebody laughs once down the hall at something Tom says, and the sound carries strangely through the vent grill before fading. Snow keeps falling over the estate of a dead billionaire who thought he could buy order and seal it under stone. I write the time in the logbook, close the cover, and keep watching the screens.